John, at some point in your life, you need to meet Taylor Barrington from our campus. He was really looking forward to getting a picture with you because he looks like John Barrows when John was 20.
Thanks.
And he's a veteran. Anyway, I'm sure he's very disappointed. Maybe he'll show his picture screen and we can send you a picture of him. So he was hoping to get a Make It Happen t-shirt and walk around campus with you.
There you go.
So I want to start off, John, by telling you that normally I would wear a collared shirt, but I'm wearing, in honor of you, I'm wearing our game day shirt.
Love it.
Because your signature is to wear a Make It Happen shirt. And I just want to tell you this is a quick story. When we go on the road, we compete with other universities across the country. Mm-hmm. And the very first time we left to go on the road, I had an Every Day is Game Day shirt from BYU. I'm a BYU football fan. And Bronco Mendenhall kind of said, hey, my team is going to practice like every day is game day because every day they need to be ready as if it's game day. And then on game day, it's game on, right? And so I was exercising in my BYU game day shirt, and in our first outing, we were 6th in the country and had 2 students make the Sweet 16.
Nice.
And so it became a little bit of the same team went with me to nationals, and they're like, do you have your game day shirt? I'm like, no, I didn't bring my game day shirt. And they're like, we're going to lose. And so I said, well, would you like it so I called up BYU and I said, hey, can we have the excess game day shirts? They're like, yeah, we didn't, no, we don't have any. I said, is it trademarked? And they said, no, we don't care. And so we made our own. And the next year we went out with our own game day shirts. And now it has been part of our legacy for 8 years running. So anyway, that's the story. This is ours. We'll put one in the mail to you.
Nice.
Maybe I'll wear a Make It Happen and you can wear a game day shirt one.
I was going to say, I'll send you a couple of Make It Happen shirts and some stickers and stuff.
So let me introduce John. So I like to, the first time I saw John was at Dreamforce. And I went to a session and it was just crowded. And it was crowded with really handsome and beautiful people that were very young and very energetic and very excited, like they were going to be meeting the rock star of their lives. And I was going, what's going on here? And I talked to a couple of them and I said, so, and I forget who else was on the panel, but I knew the other people on the panel. And I was like, so I'm sure they're here for all these other people. And I said, oh, I'm here for John Barrows. I've never met John Barrows in real I've never been in the same room as John Barrows. I was like,
not 100%.
Apparently I'm ignorant.
Yeah.
Because it was a Dreamforce. I go, okay, I don't know this guy. And then you opened your mouth and I went, okay, he's a pretty smart guy. This guy's pretty smart. And I think you were on a panel with Trish Bertuzzi and you guys were just shooting it up back and forth about what was going on. And so the first time I actually met John, we were on a yacht at another Dreamforce that Chorus AI had rented for the night. And, just walking around meeting everybody who was anybody was on the yacht. A bunch of my friends went to a Marketo party that was a bomb. And, but it was kind of fun. And we talked for a few minutes and I went, this guy's really, really good. And so John has a place called JBarrows.com. He's a trainer for a lot of the great companies around the country. And the signature Make It Happen. And John, I want to, so he's also a child book author with his daughter. And John, we're still going to do something when you can get to Dallas, okay? So anyway, my wife said, well, if you're going to do something with this guy and his book, you better get the book and read it. And my wife and I read it together. We don't have any young children anymore. Our youngest was 16 and she didn't want to sit down and listen.
I wonder why.
But my wife, we have 6 kids, and she said, that's a good book. So you have the endorsement of Amy Dover. So, you can know life is complete.
Yes, it is.
All right. So without further ado, John, we decided we're just going to have a chat here. So let's talk about, So maybe we can give John, there we go, thank you. John, what are you kind of hearing and seeing out there? I think we chatted a little bit last night, and we're probably hearing from a lot of people, and definitely fear is in the air and anxiety is in the air, but what else are we sensing out there?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Howard. And hey, everybody, thanks for joining us. You know, this has obviously changed pretty significantly. I mean, this originally was going to be, you know, my fill in the funnel course, which I trained to a ton of the SaaS companies, you know, Salesforce, LinkedIn, all those clients that I work with. And, you know, is going to really get, you know, here's the core component of that. But times have changed so drastically right now that everybody's kind of wondering what to do. And so instead of doing a presentation of like, hey, here's what you should do, I don't think anybody's ever, nobody's ever gone through what we're going through right now. So nobody really has the answer for what the right thing to do is. And you know, I was talking to Howard and we're, you know, I'm seeing people on LinkedIn being like, hey, this is what you should do right now. It's like, I'm sorry, were you alive during the Black Plague? I don't know. I wasn't. And so and by the way, even then, there was no technology, nothing like that. And so, you know, instead of that, you know, figured having a conversation about what's really happening today and hopefully give you all some structure that you can apply today, but also moving forward in your career. Because Howard, you know, the fear is real. I mean, we talked where, you know, some people are, hey, should you even sell right now? Is it even appropriate to reach out to people? And there are some people that are on like one end of the spectrum versus others. Some are like, absolutely not. This is not a right time. This is inappropriate, blah, blah, blah. And the others are like, are you out of your mind? This is the time to sell because if, you know, we got to sell our way through this, right? I mean, we're America, you know, especially here in the States, we're America, right? Like, we can do this. And so go for it and pretend like it's not happening. And both of those are tone deaf. I think both of those are wrong. Any extreme is wrong at this point, as far as don't do it or absolutely go wholehearted at it. So, you know, right now it's a time to really look at, I think, not just we're trained in sales to look at our ideal customer profile and the personas that we're going after, right? It's like, okay, who's your, you know, and this is for training everybody out there, you know, one of the first things that you should do whenever you get into sales or whenever you get your territory is to really hone in on what is the true ideal customer profile and tier out your accounts. You got your good ones, your average ones, and your bad ones. And there's all these characteristics. And then what personas do you go after in those accounts, right? Like C-levels, VPs, whoever it is. And that's what we're typically trained to do. Now we have to look at our customers, right? We have to look at the personas and the ICPs of the people that we're actually selling to, that they're selling to, because we have to understand those markets. And I put this post on LinkedIn a little while ago where I think we need to think of things in buckets, where there's three main kind of buckets that I'm thinking about, at least myself here. One is companies who are in straight lockdown mode. Right? So companies who are like, look, nothing is happening. We are in straight survival mode. So please don't talk to us. Okay. And there's a large group of those people. But then there's another group of people that are we're just kind of waiting it out. We're like trying to see what's happening here. We still got to do some stuff, but we're not crushing it. We're not getting crushed yet. So we're in this kind of evaluation mode, if you will. And there's a big opportunity, I think, right there to talk to people about, hey, you know, now that you're sitting home doing nothing or whatever, you have some extra time on your hands. Is it worth taking a look at some of your existing processes and how you can be more efficient coming out of this? You might not be making decisions right now, but you have some time to do some evaluation. And I don't want to name the vendor, but I'll give you a quick example with JB Sales here. Is, you know, we have this marketing automation platform that we use, and I'm spending $30,000 to $40,000 on that thing a year. And really all we do is use it to send out emails, right? And I've always looked at it and I'm like, is it like really 30 to 40 G's just to send out emails? Like, but you know, times are good. You know, everything's going well. So, and this is just, it's transition. It's hard to make and it's working fine. So whatever, right? It's not a priority right now. But now in this environment, I'm telling my team, no, go evaluate the 4 or 5 different vendors in that space to see if there's a better solution and we can save some money, or have just a better solution in general. So when this thing turns back around, or when that renewal comes up for that contract, I'll have better, you know, decisions and better solutions. So that's that second bucket. And then there's the third bucket of people who are getting after it right now, who are like my company. You know, I only have 7 employees. we don't have $1 million, $10 million in the bank to ride this thing out. We got to get after it. You know what I mean? So the idea here is, there used to be this old Sales Loft used to have the breakup email that was like, about 5 or 6 years ago they came up with it. It was like, could you please respond back to me 1, 2, or 3? 1, you're really interested, you're just really busy right now. 2 is you're not interested, please take me off your list. And 3 is you're stuck under a rock, or you're getting chased by a hippo and you want me to call animal control, or something dumb like that, right? And when it first started 5 or 6 years ago, it actually worked really well, but then it got so overplayed, right, that it just became a joke. I actually am almost bringing that back right now, but in a much more empathetic way. So you have to start right now. Personalization means everything. And just another sidebar as it relates to that is personalization. I used to preach personalization, like go do your homework on people before sending emails. I hated the generic cadence. I always have and always will, like the generic templated cadence stuff. So I was personalization. But then these cadences came out, and I get it. Okay, we don't have time. We got to hit the volume. So I made a shift a little while ago towards relevance, because you could send the most personalized email ever to me. Okay. But if it's not relevant to me and my role, my situation, or whatever it is, I'm not going to pay attention to it. So now relevance to me was actually more important than personalization. But now where we are today, personalization and relevance, you've got to go deep on both of those. And so if we layer on top some empathy with doing some homework, because now it's easier to do homework on people than ever, right? Because every CEO is talking about what's going on with COVID-19 with their business. Every executive is tweeting or posting or sharing some type of content around this, right? So it's actually quite easy to find how companies are reacting to this and where they are on that spectrum. And then if you do that homework and then you come to them with the, hey, I saw this, and we're working with companies who are in one of those 3 buckets. Which one are you? Because if you're in 1, good luck with everything. Call you in a couple of weeks, a couple months, hopefully when this thing's over. If you're in 2, would you be open to a conversation, right? So you can have a better solution here, maybe coming out of this. And number 3, if you got something to help somebody out, let's get after it, right? So I think that tone right there is that middle ground of, sell and pretend like this isn't happening, which is just absurd. If you're not addressing the monkey, the elephant in the room right now, I think you're just a complete moron. But if you're like, oh, I'm locking down and I'm not doing anything, well, then you're actually doing, I think, more harm than good, because we hear about the economy versus the virus, right? And which one's going to be a worse hit? I'm not going to argue either one of those. They're both going to be massive. But if we totally shut down, if everybody takes on the mentality that sales is bad right now, don't be it's offensive to reach out to people, then we're going to get absolutely, the economic downturn on this is going to be so significant, it's going to be almost impossible to get out of.
So let me I'm going to make a statement and ask a question in context here. So, I think we've answered the question, what would happen if we all stopped the economy for about 2 weeks?
Yep.
What would happen? So we've answered that question, right? And so now the question, and it's a tough question because economists don't have any models for this. How do you restart it? And what does it look like when you restart? Because you've already, when you do that, I'm an economist by training. The challenge is it doesn't really matter what the politicians say. When they say it's go time, fear and uncertainty and anxiety and behavioral change is already baked into the market. So you're not going to go back to whatever the normal was. There's going to be new normals that are created. So that kind of comes down to, when I think about sales, I think about 2 elements. One of them is getting the message to the person. And then the second one is having the meeting to determine whether my product actually is going to solve your problem. So when I think about selling, I try to think in those 2 elements, right? First one, get the meeting, which is really message delivery. I think I have something you and I should talk about. Can I get you to agree that we have a conversation? Otherwise, it's transactional, right? It's a one-stop game. I'm assuming we're dealing with something that requires a sit-down and discussion. Can you maybe address, and you were addressing a little bit on the first piece, which is the prospecting piece. How do you deal, any suggestions on how you deal with the natural objection of, yeah, I'm frozen right now. Don't know what we're doing right now. Everybody's holding their powder dry right now.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, and you know me, I'm very, technique driven, as far as my talk tracks, and not really kind of big thought process. I leave that for the smarter kids out there. To me, it comes down to objection handling. I always say, I talk a lot about sales being a science and an art, right? And everybody obviously is a science art. I'm a big believer that sales is much more of should be much more of a science than an art. Because the science lays the foundation for the art form. The structure, the process that we put in place allows our art form to figure it out, right? And one of the things somebody asked me recently, John, now that you're 44, if you could go back and tell your 22-year-old self something, what would it be, right? And my number one answer to that was A/B split test. A/B split test everything you do. And I mean this across the board. So for instance, right now with your messaging, okay? If you're coming up with messaging, say you're calling, for me, VPs of sales in the SaaS industry, okay? I'm going to come up with 2 different messages to VPs of sales in the SaaS industry. Make 20 phone calls with this approach, make 20 phone calls with that approach, see which one yields a higher response rate. Emails. If I have one email that I could send out to 50 people that all fit the same persona, I'm going to send them all out, right? I'd rather personalize each one, but I get it. I got to get the numbers up there. So, but instead of sending 50 of the exact same emails out, I'm going to do 25 and 25 and just change the subject line just to see which one yields a higher open rate, right? Objection handling. I always tell people objection handling ain't rocket science, ladies and gentlemen. It's just science. It's just science. It's right down. So for everybody out there listening to this, I mean, I train on this stuff, but whatever, Google it. Best objection handling techniques. Okay. There's a list of 50 of them or whatever. But the 5 common ones are feel, felt, found, right? I totally understand how you feel about that. Other people felt the same way. What they found was my only recommendation on that one, by the way, is do not use the words feel, felt, found. I remember when I was like 23 years. I remember when I was like 23 years old. I took a training and I learned feel, felt, found. I was so excited, right? So the first VP I could get my hands on, I was like, so look, I totally understand how you feel about that. Other people felt. As soon as the word felt came out of my mouth, he was like, look, kid, don't try to feel, felt, found approach on me, okay? I was like, no, but I just learned it. But look, you can smooth that out. Like you can smooth feel, felt, found out. It's like, hey, look, I get it. A lot of people are on lockdown right now. But after seeing some of the solutions that we have in place, it can actually help them get through this scenario, give them much more ammo or whatever it is on the other side so that they can just come out of this stronger. They realize that this might be something they should look at right now, even if they're not making any decisions. Would you be, so there's feel, felt, found for you, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one. Then there's the clarification, which is actually from Gong data is the number one objection handling technique, which is Gong. For everybody out there who's not paying attention to Gong.io, their blog is one of the best blogs I've ever read because it's all very data driven. And when they said the best reps, when given an objection, the best reps answer an objection 56% of the time of the question. Average reps answer the objection 32% of the time of the question. Right. So for instance, when somebody says, yeah, we're in lockdown mode right now. Right. Well, what do you mean by lockdown mode?
Right.
Do you mean literally? Because lockdown mode sounds scary. Right. But does that mean you are literally shut your doors and nobody's talking to anybody? Or are you guys generating revenue? Are your sales teams doing things? You know what I mean? So help me understand what lockdown mode means. Right. So clarification is the second one. Then there's the reprioritization approach, which is, look, I understand cost is an issue. Is it more important than, right, these other priorities? Mm-hmm. Then there's the reprioritization justification. So this is more with price, where somebody's like $100,000, you out of your mind. Instead of backing off, you go right after it, right? Or like COVID, like, why are you calling me right now with COVID-19? Like well, let me tell you exactly why I'm calling you right now. Like this is actually the time I should be. So there's a justification approach. And then, which I think is one of the more appropriate approaches right now, which is one of my favorites, is the preemptive strike, where the objection's coming. So you just use it before they do, right? So you just take it away from them. So my point on there's feel, felt, found, reprioritization, justification, clarification, and preemptive strike. Those are 5 techniques, all right? Write down an objection. So let's talk about, I'm in the middle of the sales cycle, whatever it is. I'm trying to accelerate this deal. I got a meeting with a client, whatever. The objection's coming. The biggest recommendation I can have for everybody listening to this is objection handling. It's proactive versus reactive. The objection's coming. Don't wait for it and make it up, right? Because inherently, I mean, look, if you're going to wait for it and make it up, at least use the default clarification technique. That should be the default for everybody. Is just you just ask the question, like, what do you mean by that? Tell me more about that. What do you mean, right? That type of thing. So if you're not prepared for it, but you should be prepared for it. So what you should do is write down the objection, come up with a couple of different, so let's talk about split testing, going back to that. Write down the objection that you're getting hammered on right now. Come up with 2 different ways of handling that objection. Next 10 times it comes up, deal with it this way. Next 10 times, deal with it that way. See what happens, right? So for me right now, COVID-19 is I am proactively, I'm using feel, felt, found, and the preemptive strike. I'm doing that. Hey, look, I get it. A ton of our clients are in lockdown mode right now, but they're also using this time to actually figure out, what systems and that type of thing. So they're realizing that sometimes that, if they looked at some solutions right now, they could actually come out of this a lot stronger if they feel, blah, their sales process, whatever it is, right? Or the preemptive strike. Hey, I know your team's probably on lockdown right now. Let me tell you why I'm calling. So my long that was a long-winded answer to your question. My short answer is there's no right answer. You got to figure it out for you, your product, and who you sell to, and have empathy for where that person is, and where that company is. And that's why I'm going to go back to why it's so important to think through who your customers are. Because if your customers right now are the airline industry, the cruise lines, anybody in travel right now, don't bother trying to sell them something right now. Do everything you can to give them maybe some free resources, some stuff to just keep top of mind and help them through this, but be super empathetic to where they are. Now, on the flip side, somebody like Zoom, like we're using Zoom right now. We were talking about this, Howard. Like you might be like a lot of people. Oh, those industries are going crazy right now, so they're perfect to call into. Pause, because I'm telling you right now, like Zoom must be going on fire right now. Their inbound leads must be legitimately off the hook. So if I'm a VP of sales right now and some sales rep calls me to try to sell me something to be more effective in theirs, I'd be like, shut up, get off the phone. Every minute I'm on the phone with you, I'm losing deals because this is not sales skills time, ladies and gentlemen. This is order taking time for us. Get out of my way, right? So those are those 2 extremes, but then there's that bucket right in the middle. That is the vast majority of people that are in that. I'm not 100% lockdown and I'm not 100% like on fire. Those are the ones that I think we can connect with and figure out how to deal with that objection in a very thoughtful way. And then last thing I'll say is make sure you understand who that objection is coming from, right? Yeah. Are they above the power line or are they below the power line? Are they in decision-making? Are they in a decision-making position or are they not? I am, like, for instance, right now, I am not allowing my reps to have conversations with non-decision makers. Sorry, like nothing against non-decision makers. I'll have conversations with them all day long to gather insights and that type of stuff. But as far as us, we're in bucket 3. We have to get after it. So I don't have time right now to talk to people, and just have meaningless conversations. I got to get going. So I have to find people who can make decisions, and I have to tap into what their problems are today, not a year from now, not last year, literally in this moment.
So you bring up a great point. Can we, as salespeople, get into a little bit of a challenge right now of being busy but not being productive?
Oh my God, yeah. Oh, I mean, well, hold on a second. I think that's a general problem for sales reps. People say I'm so busy. Shut up. No, you're not. No, you're not. Sales rep, I got so much stuff to do. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're just super inefficient with what you do, right? Like, anybody who claims that they're too busy because they have too much, go read the book. What is it?
Joe Conrad?
No, well, Joel's got a great one, but it's about time management. I forget which one it is. I'll send it over to you, but it's about time management, about how focus is the key, right? We do a little bit of a lot, and that's why time management's a problem, right? We send an email, we make a phone call, we go to the bathroom, we read a report, we do this. That's why time management, if you focus on something, and here's perfect for your university group here. Anybody in here not a procrastinator? Anybody not a procrastinator, right? Why does procrastination work? So let's say you got your finals coming up here, right? Do you guys, like, say you got a final coming up in a month, right? do you segment an hour every day to learn a little bit and learn it like for 30 days straight and you prepare really strong for that final so you're really well prepared? Or do you go on a rip or bender for the next, 28, 29 days, and then the night before the final you lock yourself in the library and go, oh shit, I gotta study for this, right? And guess what? Most of us actually pass with that. You know why that works? Focus. Because when it comes to that 29th day, the day before, are you sitting in your dorm room with all the windows open, your friends coming in, hanging out or whatever, or do you go to the deepest, darkest section of the library, clear off everything on that table and just look at that book just so you can focus in on, right? It works. So focus is the key. Busy is the enemy of productivity, right? That's why prioritization, goal setting, I mean, I can get into that whole thing. Like goal setting is one of the most important things that you can do in your careers, period, for yourself. And they got to be smart, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, right? You can't set a goal of, I want to get better, right? Like, shut up. Like, you need to be very specific in what you do. And if you have goals, I have a whiteboard. You can't see it. It's a whiteboard in my office. I write down goals every single day, what I want to get accomplished, right? And then no matter what happens that day, if those things went well, and I'm also a visual guy. So talking about visual, auditory, and kinesthetics and the psychology around that type of stuff, I'm a visual guy. So but I'm also a shiny object guy. So when something comes up, I'm like, ooh, what's that, right? So I actually need something to be my guiding light of what I need to get accomplished and what's important to me right now. And that's what the thing, like, you have to reset those focus goals on what you're trying to get accomplished on a regular basis so that you're constantly saying, okay, is this still important? Prioritization of these tasks, like busy. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we can get busy with right now that is going to not help us in any way, shape, or form when we get out of this.
So let me ask you a follow-up that's kind of personal. How many goals do you put on that wall?
3.
3.
I mean, it depends on the day, but in general, it's 3. I try to kind of force myself to say, yep, this is what I have to do today. But sometimes, but I also start with, and this is also something that I used to kind of roll my eyes at the question of, for a lot of you going out there looking for jobs and stuff, you'll probably get the question, what do you want to be in 5 years? And I used to think that was a stupid question. I'd be like, oh, I want to be a manager. Yay. And whatever. But now I don't know, because it's my age or experience or whatever. I actually think that's now a very important, thing to think about as far as what's your 5-year plan. What's that?
You hit 40. That's what happened.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly, right? It's like my doctor. Like, I don't know about you, but every time I go to my doctor before I was 40 years old, whenever I had a problem, like, my doctor would be like, oh, let's look into that. And after I hit 40, my doctor was like, yeah, you're 40. I'm like, but no, shouldn't you look into this? So, but anyways, but with my goals, I look at it and say, like, if you can look right now, it's hard to look any more than a few months out, for crying out loud. But, in general, I think you should look out like, 3, 4, 5 years and ask yourself, what kind of lifestyle, forget about your revenue or anything like that. What kind of lifestyle do you want to be living in 5 years? Okay. Because I think 5 years is, you can look at, like, if you're 20 years old, graduating college right now, you could look out 5 years and say, you know what, I want to have a good job. I want to, I want to be on my way. I want to be living in this area. I want to be kind of experiencing these things at that stage of my life. Right. And then what you do is you back into that to say, okay, well, based on that lifestyle, how much money do I need to make in order to live that lifestyle? And therefore, what kind of job do I need to have to be able to hit that, to make that money to live that lifestyle? And then what you can do is you can back into it to literally a daily goal regimen that gets you to that point. Because I tell people, if you don't have goals, if you're not setting goals, you're letting somebody else dictate your path. You're just along for the ride without goals. Okay. But with goals, you can start to feel a lot more comfortable with where you are, because if it's helping you get to where you want to be, it's a lot more tolerable. Because I get a lot of reps all the time asking me, hey, John, I'm an SDR right now. I don't really like what I'm doing. So I'm thinking about moving jobs. Like, where should I go? Where should I go? What should I do? Right? I don't know. And I ask them, all right, well, what's your plan 5 years out? Where do you want to be in your life? Lifestyle wise. And they're like, I don't know. I go, well, look, if you don't have that, then look, you're going to bounce around from one crappy job to the next because you're just looking for a little, like, look, if I have a plan and I'm doing some, and pardon my, shit stamp, like if I'm doing a job that just is not fun, right? But I know that job is going to help me get to that next level, to get to the next level, to get to the next level, to get me there, then I will do that job all day long, as long as it's helping me get there. But if I have a crappy job and I don't have a plan, I'm just going to look for a little better work, or you know what I mean? A little better crappy job. And I'm just going to keep bouncing around like that. And I think it's really important for us to kind of look out and say, all right, and then back out. And then that dictates your goals on a daily basis of what you need to be doing in order to be able to get there.
You ask any of my students, first meeting in my office, and I know they don't have the answer. I don't really care. I say, tell me about your 10-year self.
Yep.
And they're like, what do you mean? Like, I said, tell me about your 10-year self. By the way, I could care less what your profession is. Mm-hmm. Where are you going to live? Mm-hmm. Are you going to have kids? Are you going to have a dog? Are you going to live in the city? Are you going to be in Dallas? Are you going to be in Italy? Where are you going to be? Describe who you are. What does your life look like? And then, because then when they come in, inevitably, when we train them, they come back in and say, pre-COVID, they come in and say, hey, I have 10 offers. And they say, which one's the right one for me, Dr. Dover? And I said, well, let's come back. Let's describe which one aligns with the 10-year self. Which one's going to get you to the 10-year self? Uh-huh. And if they don't have that, to me, I look at them and go, hey, listen, I can't help you. You've got to tell me who you're going to be. Then we can describe what job, what function, what company. You want to own your own business someday, you need to go work for a startup. Go figure out. If you want to be the CEO one day, maybe you need to go work and do the grind in a corporate culture and figure out how that works. So it all depends. Where are you heading? What are you trying to do?
And I'll add one more piece to that, which I think is, again, a very valuable exercise, but not easy one to go through. We all hear about what's your why? Like, why do you do what you do? Right? So cool. Oh, and back up here for a second. Passion. I do want to address this. People say, follow your passion. I think that's a terrible idea. I honestly, I think that's a terrible idea. I think it's one of the worst pieces of advice anybody's ever given to a kid coming out of college. Follow your passion. Like, if I was following my passion, I'd be a stoner on the streets painting pictures like in Italy. You know what I mean? Like, that would be my job. Like, that would be if I followed my passion. The idea is find your passion. You know what I mean? Find your passion. And I really don't believe in business, at least. You don't really find your passion until you're close to your 30s, right? Because you got to try a whole bunch of stuff out in your 20s to figure things out. But one of the things that I think all of us should do is we got to understand what our core values are.
Yes.
So I think your why is going to be difficult because sometimes your why is going to change, right? Over the years, like, why do you do what you do? And you're going to come across something and go, oh, wait a minute, my why is different. Your values shouldn't change, though. And I don't know where this came up. I don't know who recommended it to me or why I did it, but really early in my career, I created my 12 guidelines to success, my personal 12 guidelines to success. Work hard and smart. People say work smart, don't work hard. No, shut up. You got to work your ass off. By the way, that's the secret to success. Everybody listening right now, everybody's like, oh, what's the secret to success? Work your ass off. That's the secret. Okay. Like another one was find your passion or find something else to do. What goes around comes around. You can learn something from everybody you get in touch, that you come across with. Like, so those are my core values. And what happens is, and I've tightened them up over the years. What happens though is when you know what your core values are, then you can take that lens and put it up against all the opportunities you have in your life to figure out which ones are the right ones. A lot of people coming out of college, they're just looking for a job, right? Hey, I just want a job. So they apply to anybody who kind of looks like, okay, great, right? Take a step back. And I'll tell you all right now, the best interviews that you will do are the ones where you're interviewing the company, not the company just interviewing you. I can't stand it when I'm sitting in front of a rep and I interview a rep and all of a sudden I say, okay, what questions do you have?
No.
And they don't have any.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, what? You don't have any questions about the company you're about to start your career with. You have no questions. And it better not be about vacation or any of that crap. Right? But if you come in and you say, okay, a great way to apply for a job, in my opinion, is not to put your resume out there. Have a resume, great, go ahead and apply. What I would do is I would actually turn it into a prospecting opportunity. I would do the exact same thing that I do from a sales standpoint. I would go on their website. I would go look at their mission statement. Here's an easy one for everybody to do. Super tactical thing that y'all can do right now. Identify your core values. Really think what's important to you. Okay. Then go get a list of companies that kind of you think might, what kind of sales do you want to be in or whatever it is, and find a few a few companies that fit that well. Now go on their website for literally 10 minutes and go look at their mission and their vision statement. Go look at what their purpose is. Go take a few reads of what their CEO and their team and like what they're putting out there as their values. If those values line up with yours, then you can send a very simple email to the CEO of the organization that says, "Hey, Howard, I was looking at your company and I noticed that your core values are blah, blah, blah. I'm personally looking for my first challenge here, my first opportunity from a career standpoint. And your company looks like a great one that I could actually start to build my career around. And I'd love to see if I could talk to somebody about an opportunity. Who in your organization can I have that conversation with?" Have that C-level executive refer you down to the top, the person involved in HR. You're on the top of the list. You submit your resume with the 8 billion other people that are going to be submitting resumes. Like people will call me up and say, John, I've been out of work for, 6 months. And, I've submitted my resume to hundreds of opportunities and I don't know why I'm not getting called back. It's like, gee, I wonder. There's only 8 million resumes coming into that inbox being sifted through for any small thing that doesn't fit the perfect scenario. So, unless your resume literally sings perfectly to whoever you're reaching out to, it's not going to happen. But if you take the prospecting mindset, the sales mindset into this, you're in a much better position. And I'm looking at you as a VP of sales saying, hey, there's a kid who's actually taking the extra effort here versus just submitting their stupid resume and hoping that I, pick them out of a needle in a haystack type of thing.
So good points. I've taught that for over a decade with my students is do informational interviews into the company you want to go work for. Mm-hmm. Get yourself, name recognition is amazing.
Yeah.
I had one kid, quick story, hopefully less than 30 seconds here, had some kid who said, I want to go be an energy trader. He interviewed an energy trader and the guy said, yeah, we never hire people right out of college. But, hey, it's nice to know you. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, is there anybody else in the company I should interview? And he said, well, if you ever did contact the company, you'd have to visit with the HR person. Yeah, you can go interview her. So he interviews the HR person. The HR person, we never hire out of college. So he ends up with the CEO. He ends up interviewing, informational interview about a career in trading with basically the executive team. Then Christmas comes and the trader calls him up and says, hey, dude, we got an opening. I'm sure we won't hire you because we never hire anybody. But hey, what do you have to lose? He gets the job. They never hire a college student, but guess what? When his resume comes in, CEO says, hey, I know him. Everybody goes, I know him. Like, we don't normally hire, but we all know him. Hey, we want him. All of a sudden, boom. So, hey, let's go into a kind of a tough one. I'm gonna put you a little bit on a spot to see what are the oracles that John Barrows is going to look at. So let me frame this up a little bit. Yeah. In the last downturn, Gartner did significant CEB, but now Gartner did some significant research, and Brent Adamson and Matt Dixon put out the Challenger book and some research about what the winners and losers were doing. Lots of people have opinions about that research and the model that came out of it. Yeah. I still think the research was really, really valuable because it taught us some things. Sure. Who are going to be the people John Barrows is going to kind of watch and listen to as we move through the next year to 2 years I'm going to listen to the following people because I think they have the capacity to tell me what's going on.
That is a tough one.
I know. It's not even fair.
So I'm kind of on the exact opposite side of you. Like you're a PhD, like, you know all the details. I'm a state school kid, dragged my way through 4 years of school here. So, I look at trends. I think my easy answer to your question is the customer. That's my easy answer to your question. I don't think there's anybody out there that I like look to say, oh, you have the answer. Data is interesting to me. It kind of gives me a baseline metric to look at. That's why I like the Gong data because, I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm missing something here. You know what I mean? But, I'm constantly trying to listen. I'm a huge fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. And Gary V, he always says he listens to the market. He doesn't listen to the people on TV saying this is what's going to happen. He watches how we work. He watches what we do, and then he starts to invest in those areas, right? So, he's called a lot of the really big pops just because he's like, nope, that one, everybody's using that one. So I don't care what the Wall Street says. Like, I'm going to start investing in that, right? TikTok and Snap and stuff like that. So to me, I think I think we have to get so in tune with our customer moving forward here, about their buying process, their cycles, the technology that is impacting the buying process. This is actually something to pay attention to. So I start almost every single one of my trainings off with death of the average sales rep. Okay. And when I talk about that, right, death of the salesman is the first one. That's the movie. It's death of the average salesman, in my opinion, salesperson, in my opinion, because the ones who are going through the motions and all that stuff, I used to say we're going to get replaced by technology. You know what I mean? Like, everybody was just cranking out template cadences, making generic cold calls, asking BANT questions, press and play on demos, all that crap. They're just going to, and I thought it was going to be a gradual change over the course of 10 years where they were going to slowly get replaced by technology. And the cream was going to rise to the top because the reps, the good and the great reps who learned how to leverage technology for all that administrative stuff and put them in the best position to educate the client, those are the ones that are going to be successful. Now, today, COVID-19 has accelerated that overnight, literally overnight. I think coming out of this, there's going to be a whole host of average sales reps that die. And when I say die, I don't mean die, well, obviously die, but I mean shift away from sales and move into sales, marketing, operations, and become salaried employees and not commission, right? Mm-hmm. So I think there's going to be a huge shift to that. Okay. And so, that's more what I'm paying attention to is the trend. So I'm sorry, to get to the point was, I've been worried about technology, forget about COVID-19 for a second. I've been worried about technology replacing the sales side. What I'm paying attention to a lot more right now is when technology starts to impact the buyer side. Yes. When people start using technology to make decisions, that's when I think we're in trouble. That's when I think, because think about AI for a second here. If you really truly have the power to turn like Watson or something like that onto your organization and ask it some questions about where the gaps are, where the inefficiencies are, and those type of things, and identify the gap there, and then say, okay, based on this problem that we have, because we've identified it, because AI is way smarter than we can based on the collection of that data. We've identified we have this problem. Okay, well, what are the 10 vendors out there that solve that exact problem? Click on the internet, they can go scrub that in a second. Yep. Go throw out an RFP to all 10 of them with very specific criteria and maybe only talk to a sales rep on the last, once it gets down to the last one or two. Like, that's to me what I'm most worried about these days. I'm not really worried about technology taking over our jobs. I think that the average sales rep's going through the motion. I'm not saying I don't feel bad for him, but I don't feel bad for him. If you were not and this isn't just sales, anybody who doesn't take their profession seriously, anybody who doesn't constantly educate themselves on being the best at what they do and decides to pack it in and just say, go through the motion, I have zero sympathy for. I have zero sympathy for.
So John, we're going to have to call it there. And I just want to let people know. So unlike other events, many people don't know John Barrows in Dallas. Although the reason we invited you is we're in our 50th year celebration at UT Dallas. This is our 50th year as a university. And the dean's office said, go find somebody who's a big name. And I said, by the way, have you ever been to one of our leadership summits? We always bring in big names. I said, well, bring in somebody really big. And so I put it out to LinkedIn. I said, all right, who should we bring to Dallas? Your name is the name that came up. And so that's why the invite went. And so we actually want to let people know that John actually does have johnbarrows.com, and you're holding events, including kind of I think on the 8th and 9th, you're doing a 2-day workshop virtually. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're doing a lot. I mean, obviously, we've shifted. You know what I mean? We've shifted just like every other company. We've been doing online and remote stuff for a while now, but, obviously on-site was our biggest revenue generator. So now, obviously, everything's online and remote. So now we're doing our first public workshops remotely. So I put my email at my website, JBarrows.com. Tomorrow, we're launching a new website, but it's just going to be a single page website with all the resources and all the different things that we're doing, some paid, some free, and resources. So we're launching it. Actually, is today Tuesday or Wednesday?
Today is Wednesday.
All right, great. Then then I think we're launching it today. Sorry, I just don't
I
even pay
saw a
attention.
social media post that said, Tuesday, it is Tuesday. We now call this day.
Yeah. Or like I saw one, it was like
Okay.
Tuesday, March 93rd. You know what I mean? So, so anyways, so I put my link in there, jbarrows.com. So to take a look at those things. Also, I put in a link to the why blog that I talked about. So that y'all can get some perspective on that. Because I got that from the Gary Vee session that I went to. And then there's the want to be in sales when I grow up. Thank you again for that. If anybody's looking for that, that's, by the way, 100% of the profits on that one go to charity. So, and it's the World Wildlife on my daughter. Actually, it's based on my daughter. If you go to that website, you'll see her practicing her pitch when she was 6 years old, selling Girl Scout cookies. And I was, teaching her objection handling and door-to-door knock, that type of thing. So if you go to that website, you'll see it. She actually doesn't want to be in sales when she grows up. She wants to be a veterinarian. So 100% of the profits of that go to World Wildlife Fund. Which is,
That's what she said.
yeah. Yeah, I already know she's going to be in sales. So anyways,
that's her passion, John.
You watch her. I'll send you one of her presentations. It's pretty legit. Anyways, and then if anybody has any questions, the easiest way to and I'm happy to, by the way, answer anybody's question about anything and free consulting, I guess, or even job, advice or something like that. But Instagram is the best way to do that. So my handle's in there. It's John M as in Michael Barrows. That's Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter as well. And then obviously follow me on LinkedIn. And that's LinkedIn's right now is where I'm putting out most of kind of daily, okay, because things are changing literally daily right now. So I'm trying to stay half a step ahead of where we are. So those are some resources for everybody to check out. And if there's anything I can do to help any of you, please, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks a lot, John. We look forward to when all this clears to bring you to campus one day.
Yeah, me too.
And, we have some plans. We'll visit with Chris when the air clears. All right.
Perfect.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Howard, for having me on here. I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for listening. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day. You got some great speakers coming up. One of my favorite people in the world, Lori, is coming up right after me. So I think I took a few minutes of her time. I apologize, Lori, but thanks so much for having me.
All right.